How's it going, everyone? I've got the start of another home improvement project for you today. Now, unfortunately, I've already made a start on this one. I got out of the habit of filming and I completely forgot to switch on the camera. But what we're going to be doing is, well, as you can see, the fireplace is gone already. What the project's all about is I've taken away the limestone fireplace. As nice as it wasn't exactly to our taste, and obviously TV placement takes priority. So what I'm going to be building here is a nice big floating wall with the TV set on the wall, then a series of units. So as you can see, the fireplace surround is gone. The fire was capped off when the building work was being done on the conservatory. I got the plumber to cap that off. The wallpaper's been stripped off. I still need to get rid of some of this flaky paintwork. I'll show you what it looks like behind here. This is just propped up for the time being. I do need to stick it on as one of my next projects, one of my next tasks even. Fireplace actually came out fairly easily actually. All the stone surround work, which was like stuck on with adhesive and a couple of screws that we didn't realise, so we ended up pulling it off and pulling it out with the plaster, but not to worry because all that's going to be covered up. But I got an extra bit of plasterboard from when they were doing the conservatory work, as well as all the timber which I'll be using, so that saved a bit of money. So I've traced around that, cut it out of the plasterboard on the wall, and cut a few holes out. You saw the one down there for the cables to go up, and then they're going to pop out here just to feed the TV, so the little bit of wall that you'll still be able to see between the units and the floating wall, I'll not have the cables showing. Also got a little hole in a shelf there for the plug sockets and extensions to go. And then this little bit that was cut out is where the TV bracket's going to be, because these things are hollow flue blocks, so I don't really fancy attaching the TV mount onto those because it's probably not going to be too strong with them being hollow. So I managed to get one of these like bendy cantilever articulating arms. Usually these things, they're meant to go like that, and then you can extend your TV out and point it in all different directions. But what I'm going to do is use this like bendiness to mount it over here on these nice strong breeze blocks, and then have the TV centered on there, and then I can still pull it out and get to the the connections and everything in the cables. So I've got a few what they called anchor bolts to fix that into this area, and like I said, I've just cut the plasterboard out to allow that to fit flush. This bit of plasterboard, it needs to be stuck in here, something like that. I'll just leave it propped up for now. I hope it don't fall like a dog. So yeah, once I've stuck that on there, skimmed around the edge so it's nice and smooth. Like I say, most of it's not going to be visible because there's going to be a big 1.2 by 2.4 metre piece of MDF coming, which will be placed on 2 by 6 inch battens that'll be positioned on wall with LED strip running around them. So then the big MDF panel is going to extend slightly past them, so they're going to be able to see the glow of the LEDs around it. And then for the wall, we've got some wallpaper that we've chosen, this like herringbone effect wallpaper, so that'll be all over the wall. And then I'll be coating the actual floating wall with, well, we've yet to decide. It was originally going to be like a distressed wood effect, but then we've chosen like an oak colour for the units. The IKEA Besta units, quite short, with solid doors on them and a couple of shelves for the the skybox and DVD player. So they're going to extend a bit further. We've got two of those next to each other, so they're going to extend a bit further than the floating wall. But we've got those in oak, so I don't think a distressed wood and then against oak is going to look much good. A second idea was to use, we both really like the split face slate, but the trouble is I can't find any like slate effect tiles in that sort of design. They're all like proper slate, which means the tiles are really heavy. So they're not going to really bond onto this MDF panel very well. Plus, it's just going to be super expensive, like the like crazy money for these tiles, even just to cover a little area like that. So what I'm thinking is either slate effect, like vinyl sticky floor, which will be easy to just stick on afterwards, or somehow put like slate effect laminate on it. But either way, it's going to be like a slate effect colour against that herringbone pattern, which kind of matches the curtains and the sofas that will be coming soon. That's the introduction to this project. Like I say, I've already made a bit of a start, but the next step is going to be to stick this wall and then skim it just to try and blend it in. Actually, just to give you an idea what it's going to look like roughly, I've got my cardboard cutout TV. So the TV is going to sit on the wall about, let's have a look, about there. And we've got the 2 sofas that are coming, they're delayed, so obviously you can see there's no sofa in here at the moment. We give our old sofa away thinking that the next day or 2 days later ours would be arriving. Then we got a phone call saying that our new sofas have been delayed, so we're stuck with nowhere to sit down. But when they do arrive, we'll have 2 like Chesterfield style light grey sofas, like one there and one along here, and then a big coffee table in the middle, so all look nice and symmetrical. So I'll tune in again when I'm ready to stick this to the wall and take it to the next step. Right, first task today is to permanently fix this piece of plasterboard to this wall. Now, I searched on the Screwfix website for some materials I needed. The first thing I looked for is plasterboard adhesive, and what I'm expecting with that, you know, the stuff they have to mix up into like a paste and just like dot and dab it onto the plasterboard, then squeeze it on. But the first thing that came up was actually this stuff. Got it in my box of tricks. No nonsense, expanding sticky foam. Ideal for fixing large sheet materials. Adheres to most things including dry lining and plasterboard, so that should do the job. It got pretty good reviews online, and it's a bit of a time saver, so I guess instead of dot and dab it's going to be stick and squish. Didn't it? Right, let's try plan B and try applying it to the flat surface instead. So where do I want it? So a quick check-in, it's a few hours later. It seems to have stuck pretty well actually. It's pretty much rock solid. So this sticky foam does seem to work. Just scrimmed it up, ready for plastering. There's some quite big gaps, but the finish doesn't have to be perfect because, like I said, most of that's going to be covered up by the floating wall, and then the rest of it, there's only going to be like a gap from like there down to like around there somewhere where the IKEA media cabinet things are going to be. So I've just got some basic ready mixed plaster just to save myself from mixing up a bag of powder and having to mix water in and stir it and everything. So hopefully I'll be able to just quickly skim over that. This is going to be my very first plastering attempt, so don't judge my technique or the finish or anything. It's like I say, it's going to be hidden, so it doesn't really matter what it looks like, but I'll film it anyway so you can see the process. Right, so there we go, plastering done. I've no idea whether that looks any good, only time will tell I guess. But thankfully I will be covering this with wallpaper, so that's going to disguise a few more bits. You still see scrim tape a bit, so possibly could have done with putting more on, but never mind. I'll see what it looks like after wallpaper, and hopefully it'll not be too noticeable. Okay, so a few updates since I last checked in. I've done another coat of plaster on the wall. The second coat actually went on a lot easier. Actually felt quite professional doing the long sweeps and got a really nice finish on it, but then I did it again and it like dragged and ruined it all, but it don't look too bad. I've sanded it down a little bit just where the bit that's going to be visible. It transitions quite smoothly between those, so I'm quite impressed about that. I've got these little markings, so the units are going to come up to about there, and then there's only that sort of span before the floating wall starts, so that's only really the bit that needs to look alright, but I've kind of sanded most of it just to make it nice and smooth. Otherwise there's seems to be a tree sprouted in the corner of the room, and I've just scraped the whole wall, got all the flaky paint off, and just give it a scrubbing with sugar soap, because the next step is going to be giving it a coating with this wallpaper, which I think I've shown you before, but I'll show you again. It's like it's called cotton tweed. It's like a fabric-y style effect. These little like herringbone style pattern. So hopefully that'll cover up some of these lumps and bumps, even though, like I say, you can't see them, but That should cover up any irregularities in the wall. So that's going to be the next step. I don't fall over the ladder and knock Christmas tree down. Oh, one thing we did get as well for the floating wall, the MDF's in the garage that arrived the other day. But to cover it, we've got some vinyl sticky bike floor panels of this nice wood. If we can get one out. So that's what's going to cover the wall. So if you can imagine, that contrasts against that quite nicely. So first things first, I need to get the wall wallpapered. Then I need to mount the TV bracket. Then put the battens up for the the frame for the wall. Then mount the wall after cutting the hole out for the back of the TV, and then cover it with this wood effect stuff. So I'll switch over to time-lapse mode for the wallpapering section. So latest progress of the wall that Mexico is going to pay for. I've got the wallpaper done. I used the paste the wall method this time, and it seemed to work a lot better. Last time I tried it, I'd find that I'd paste the bit that I needed to do plus a little bit extra, stick the first panel on, but then I'd find that the little bit extra had dried by the time I'd got the next piece ready to go. So I ended up having to try and like splodge some extra paste on it. It ended up going back on the first piece, but this time I realised that if you leave a little bit folded over on the right hand edge and then repaste over that bit and paste the next panel, then that allows you then to stick that piece back down on some nice fresh paste. So that speeded up the process a bit. Managed to get all the way across quite quickly. Just a couple of areas where it needed cutting around plug sockets. That one went quite nice. Ended up covering up all my holes. I had to fish them back out through the paper. Managed to do a fairly neat job over here. There's some bits that were a bit difficult, a bit there where it's not really stuck down much, but looks pretty good overall. I've also got the TV mount installed on the wall. Just we've got the TV on it at the moment, just checking out the positioning and placement. So let's see, this like bends and pivots out like this. This is secured on with 3 anchor bolts in there, using like a 14mm drill bit. I've positioned it so that it's like 2 bolts in one block and then a third in another block, just so that it's not all resting on one block. Whether that makes a difference or not, I don't know, but that's like super strong now. That's definitely secured on there. Because that's off centre as well, because I didn't want to attach it to these hollow flue blocks, that instead of being central like that, I used the cantilever positioning to bend that back like that. So the TV folds back like that against the wall. It sits perfectly central on the wall, despite the mount being off-centered. So I've also got these leftover bits of timber from when they did the conservatory. It's a bit overkill at 6 by 2 inch. That piece of MDF I've got, that 2.4 by 1.2 metre 18mm MDF is like 36 kilos, so I never realised how heavy that actually was, but that's going to take the weight of that once they're attached onto the wall, and that's going to be the next job. I need to drill these holes. I've marked out all the positions. The frame's going to go around there, and then the MDF's going to be screwed onto those. So that's the next job. So there we have the progress so far. I did skip ahead a little bit in this video because I needed a helping hand, so I had to get some help off my dearest wife, so we had to crack on and get things done. But I'm trying to think what the last thing that I showed was. Mounted the timber frame, just drilled right through the plasterboard, through past the gap into the breeze blocks, then shoved the roll plugs all the way through and screwed those in with some really big, nice long 100mm screws. Then we had to come up with a way of raising this big heavy piece of MDF up high enough off the ground. So I managed to use a couple of, a stack of white outdoor deck chairs that this was rested on. They were also balanced on a couple of planks of wood as well, just to raise it up to the right height, make sure it's all level, and then screwed these through with 5x50 screws into those battens. Also had to chop out a big hole in the back for TV to sit back into. LEDs are all stuck and hiding under there. The cables just stuck to the wall, and then I had to cut another hole out of the plasterboard and run the power cable through there. This is my trusty piece of curtain wire that I've used to fish the wires up, and that's currently up here waiting for the the HDMI cables and the power to go through. Well, speaking of the power cable, this plug, annoyingly, is one, it's not an actual removable plug here, it's like wired straight into the TV. Two, it's a moulded plug, so that's going to have to be chopped off. And three, the cable's not actually long enough to go down the wall and out and into the extension sockets in there, so I'm going to have to chop the end off, solder some extra wire on, then solder a new, then wire in a new plug on the end, which is a bit more faffing than I wanted, but not be too difficult. But this all fits nicely back against the wall, like so. So the next step is going to be to stick these wooden panels on it, just to finish it off. So that's my job for tonight. Check it out, really happy with how it's looking with this wood effect cladding. All I've got to do now is just fill in this little gap with a bit of spare carpet just to lift the floor height a bit. Build the two IKEA Besta units to go along the bottom there, then run the extra cables and things into that little cubby hole and get it all wired up. So, and then clean up all this Christmas mess. And there we go, the final product. I'm really happy with how it's looking. Well, one thing I do need to do actually is I've got a slim HDMI cable on order, and I've also just ordered a longer optical cable, so they're visible at the moment. They won't be when it's completely finished. But I've got the two IKEA Besta units in place. Good thing with these is because you can like customise how you make them. We've got a big storage cupboard there, which is totally open. I've got a big storage cupboard there with a shelf in it, and I've put the subwoofer in there. Whether that's going to start rattling or not, I don't know. They've all got these nice soft close features as well. A couple of drawers. A bit difficult to open these with no handles, but because you can like customise how you make them, I've got one shelf and drawer on that side, and then one shelf and drawer on that side to make that kind of look central to the whole wall, so it's nice and wide using two units, and looks pretty balanced either side. I'm quite happy with that this glow is still visible, because it's about 8-inch, back from the edge where the LEDs actually are. You can see them all the way back there. So when I first did it and first put that panel up, they didn't seem too bright, but it looks fine as it is. I've currently got it on rainbow mode. Oh, one other thing, I was going to cut out the skirting boards and have these two units pushed right back to the wall, but then I realised I actually need somewhere for the cables to go, so that kind of just leaves enough space. If I cut the skirting board out, pushed it all the way back, it'd still be offset a little bit by however much the cables are, the width of the cables. So I think I'll just leave it at that. Initial idea was to try and fish them through the wall and take a spur off this, but then there was also like the Sky cables, the coax cables, and the telephone line, and all sorts of different things running down there. So just to tidy this a little bit up, I've got some some little trunking just to stick on the skirting board, and then there's probably going to be a plant there or something anyway to cover all that junk up. So that's the finished product. Hope you like the look of it, and hope you enjoyed this little making of process. I think the sofas should be here next week, so they'll be sat in there with that coffee table in the middle, although as of this morning it's all going to be decorated with various Christmas ornaments. So I've had to quickly record this final video before my wife gets her hands on it all. So it's probably going to be covered in tinsel and all sorts of little teddies and things. So stay tuned for more of these little house update projects. I'm not too sure what I'll be doing next, but thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.